Hi guys, this is Simon with Trade and Perform Coaching, doing a trade review of an ES short we just took 40 points on, and Derek asked me to review it, so I'm going to review it. So, just a quick important disclaimer. This webinar is for educational purposes only. It's not a recommendation to buy or sell anything, particularly futures, right? There's a tremendous amount of risk in day trading futures. You can lose money, as I demonstrated quite aptly after early this morning, and you can also make a lot of money, right? This is my trading process that I try to share with others to help you make to become good traders. Take what you like, leave the rest, right? Past performance is not indicative of future results. Please make sure you consult with a registered financial advisor and make a risk plan before investing or trading any financial instrument. Okay, so let's go through it. So let me give everyone who's going to watch the video later a little bit of a setup, Derek. Okay, so coming into the day, we were up multiple days in a row. Let me find the ES trade. And my idea was I would find a way to trade ES, which we actually did quite successfully early in the day. We captured some of this, we captured some of this. Where I did a horrible job was in this. See where the rotations just got mega small. So two things I want to cover about that. We took out the stops over here. I always discuss taking out the stops, and we also took out the stops over here, right? So remember, you always have Derek, you always have two places where you can take the stops out, okay? You can take them out. So if you look at this from a curve, right? You want to come in and like, okay, here was the last set of stops, right? I don't know, it was off to the left, but they take those out over here, and then they roll it over. Guys, I apologize. Give me just 1 second. I got to take this call from my wife. 1 sec. So continue. The idea is whenever you have any chart, so I want to try to build it how I saw it in my head and why I was so persistent in taking the trade, right? Because I think that was the key of why I took the trade, and I was missing one element that Bill, do you mind if I add the part you added to that? If you're in the room? Maybe you're not. Okay, cool, thanks. So Bill has a part that I don't watch anymore, tick divergence, because I can only watch so much intraday, which is why it takes a team effort sometimes, right? So let's duplicate this chart really quick, right? And let's erase all the lines. And let's take all the target stuff out, right? Okay, cool. So if we take a step back for a second, we're going to go to the same principle, right? Which is this. Markets like to take out highs and lows, stop traders out, and then reverse and take it the other direction, right? So if we were going to do that, right, if you're going to have that basic principle and you didn't know anything else, that was just the idea that you're going to have, you would constantly go around doing this. You draw a line here, like we take that line right there approximately, right? And we go, oh, they took the stop out, wrong tool, took the stops out and rolled to the downside, right? And you do the same thing with the long side of the trade. You'd look back to the left and you would do something like, you go, okay, so here's a line over here. And if you look really closely, right, they come in, take the stops out, and then roll out. But sometimes, right, sometimes, like if you look at this here, right, so see over here, we take the stop out and we roll down, but then you're left with a normal conundrum. Well, what about when we take this stop out and I short it and I get ripped, right? So there has to be another component. There has to be another component in the thought process to make that make sense, right? So you have to have something else. So like over here, you'll see we put in a high, we took it out, then they came in and made one other high, and then it rolled down. And how do you know when it's really, and so the question becomes, how do you know when it's really a great effective tool and when it's not a great effective tool, right? So if we come back and look today, right? So in the morning, so this is our day today. and I pointed out that overnight this was our overnight high, and we had to get back underneath it in order to have any kind of sense of a roll to the downside, right? And we did that successfully, right? We shorted out of here a couple of times successfully, and we actually got, I think, as much as Bill or someone correct me, I think we got 10 or 20 points, 15 or 20 points out of one of these shorts. I think over here out of this right shoulder, we got 15 or 20. We came in and then it trapped back in and pushed back out, right? But when I look at this picture, the next logical place to take the stops out, right? So now, Derek, you got to put yourself in the mindset of a trader who nailed the peak. Let's say you didn't even nail the peak. Let's say you're over here and you shorted right over here. You took some heat, but then it rolled for you, right? So everyone's got to be looking at this poorly auctioned area over here and going, gosh, that should probably get re-auctioned, right? So what is that going to look like? So I was trying to force it in here, and so it wasn't unprofitable or it was okay trading in here, right? And then this is the old swing high. Now at this point, what I'm thinking is just what everyone else is thinking. That's the high. We're going to come in, pierce in underneath, maybe backside test, and then roll lower, right? That's what I wanted to happen, which starts to explain why I started to get frustrated over here, right? So we come back over here, and we start doing this slow, just driven grind all the way through New York lunch. Now I want to point something out. Remember, there's been 3 situations in 2 weeks where over New York lunch, they stretched that trade all the way out over New York lunch and then broke. If you'll see it, if you go look back and look, you'll see it. But what happened was, if you take this line, what we finally did was poked in here, and I thought I could get them here, and then again here, right? And clearly there's a trend line and blah, 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 but really what they're doing is they're taking out the stops that were over there. That's what they were doing in here, right? So now I'm going to shift gears. So I had the idea that A, we're on a huge stretch, right? B, right? B, we've taken out the stops, right? So when I was trying to short over here earlier, like at 11:20, my guess was we were trying to do a head and shoulders in here, and we were going to penetrate, we were just retest. So remember, we have multiple processes going on at the same time, right? So I'm doing this on a big time frame so you can translate it into a little time frame. My assumption was this would be left shoulder, right shoulder, right? So sometimes when we get that head and shoulders formation, right, that sometimes they'll come up one more time and test up into that left shoulder and then roll to the downside, right? And that's what I was thinking would happen, which is why I stayed through lunch and tried to short in there, and I ended up getting these shorts stopped out, right? So now let's take it to a further point. If you'll look in the room, right, I was obviously frustrated. I gave back what would have otherwise been a really good day from over here in this area. And my thinking was on the day, which I pointed out in the morning, right? So you got to remember the larger scale was that we could make it at least back to the 50-60, which is what this 55 was. I covered 3/4 of that at 59, right, of the trade, and I'm short up here at 97. So now to go back to, so Derek, are you on track with me so far? Does the logic hold true of how the greater thinking goes? Does that make sense? Okay, so now we're going to go look at the smaller time frame where we're actually making our decisions, right? And we want to accomplish 2 things when we look at this. Number 1, how could I minimize my bad decisions, or not my bad decisions, but decisions that didn't work out? And how could I accentuated the wins, right? So when you look at that, okay, when you look at how could I accentuated the wins would be the better question, because all the trades I took were on some form of pre-approved process for me, right? So now if you come back around, let's get rid of this. Let's get rid of this. And let's drag this up. Okay, and let's go back over. So each time I was taking these trades up here where I was getting stopped out, so you can still see the work that's there, right? Potential head and shoulders, closes above the left shoulder, continues to drive, right? We can see that from over here. And we had an inverse head and shoulders that actually closed below the left shoulder and snapped back in. Like, it was really frustrating trading here in New York lunch. So we can already concede the point in one area. which is trading during New York lunch can be really, really tough. And it's best to just kind of forget about that, right? It's best to leave that alone so that you can focus on other areas, right? So then when we came over here, right, I'm trying to do the same process yet again. So this time we took out the highs again. So if I'm going to erase this. So look at the qualities that we're looking for as we get into this grind. So first of all, what I might have should have done, see how we put up 2 fractals over here to the left? See how we don't have any fractals at the high? So one area of improvement I could have done is come back and say, well, let me make sure I get a fractal on top before I really try to press this for any more than a scalp, right? We were also short in here, I believe, and I was thinking, oh, well, we could push it out of here, right? So we had a good trade over here. We had a good trade over here, I think, right? We had these 2 areas. And then this is where I started to get in trouble right here, was through that 1050 to 11 o'clock area, because I was getting small micro setups like this, where I was thinking, we're going to roll this to the downside, lower left shoulder, and this is where I started taking stops, right in here, right? So now roll over. I was like, I really think I've got this so this is what I was looking at when I was thinking of short. This is pretty much what it looked like, right? It didn't look a whole lot of short, right? But now and then Derek, you mentioned earlier this morning, we were into the bigger picture 50-60, right? So now if you look over here, I also tried to short this setup right here, and I got stopped again. I actually took this short right up here in the left collar. I added on it on the break, and then I got completely stopped out, I think right over here. And I was really feeling, so 2 things I need to cover. I was really feeling defeated at that point, right? I really thought I had a really good read on the market, and I couldn't break it out of that. It's not my job, right? I couldn't break it out of it. And as a trader, you get caught in 2 areas, right? One part of you goes, geez, I know they could really roll this thing down. We're so far extended, right? But the other part of it is that you get this fear that, well, if they break it out, they're not going to give me a shot to get back in. Neither of which were true, right? So I want to show you this. So when we get over here, okay, so this is what we're looking at now, right here. All right, so if you look, we now end up with, so remember, I'm feeling pretty beat up here, right? Potential left shoulder, right shoulder, and what I missed was, see that giant 105 right there? I missed that 105 because we beat it with a 38 with a new high, and we just stopped everyone out from over there, right? And then we have clear divergence into the high on the Wyckoff waves, right? So now I'm going to take you to the time frame, right? See this right over here? Bill comes in, and Bill goes, what did Bill say? Bill says, okay, so 1236, FYI, 5-minute tick divergence, right? So I don't look at tick divergence all that much. I may need to throw it back on there if we're going to start this slow grind stuff. But this is 1236 right here. That's 1230. That's when we posted that, right? And so now look at it from right here. So if we look at our process from there, this guy right here. So I'm going to erase all this and do it all over again. Okay. Here's 1236. Here's me feeling like I've absolutely had my ass kicked. I've turned a profitable day into a losing day. Right, I was talking to Bill. I was like, I'm down on the day. And I knew if this trade stopped out again, I'd have a good down my hands. It wasn't just a moderate. I took back all the profits I made earlier and then some, right? If I get stopped again. But here's where I go back to the process. And Derek, as you know, right, I say if you're going to do anything, right, what do I keep preaching? If you're going to take the trades, keep taking them on process, even if they're stopping you, because you know the process works consistently over time, right? So we needed 2 elements to make this work, right? So first we needed the stopped out trader. we got that again right over here. But on a day like today, that's been difficult because your stopped out trader, they keep blowing you up when we get these really narrow, tight ranges, right? But then we had some other elements that we didn't have over here. Okay, so now I'm going to take y'all into the algo to see how I could have better executed it had I not gotten frustrated, right? So here's the super bar. We have parallel algos firing. So this is a super bar, close to parallel algos firing right over here. See now, so the first one, see when it got underneath, it came in, it backside tested, it's okay, right? There's nothing wrong with it. But when you get them parallel, okay, so I've got two things. I'm going to draw a line so y'all can see how this went off to the right. I've got my almost parallel super bars here. You'll notice we never got behind those super bars to this side, right? People put in a lot of effort to the upside, and they're getting trapped, right? Then we get 1, 2, parallel, or close to parallel, just regular algos firing, again, telling us there's a bunch of energy in there. Here, we have a stopped out seller, right? And then right here, so we come out, we take out the stops again, but there's nothing new here, right? So see, when you're going through the day, you just get mentally freaking worn down, right? Like it's hard to keep upping that trade over and over again. But then when we get over here, right, Bill, very thankfully, goes, by the way, right up here, he posts that at 12:36 in the room, he goes, we had tick divergence on the 5-minute chart, right? And I go, oh, right? When he says that, I go, oh. And I go, we've got everything else we want here, right? And I wasn't even seeing the algos. I just got tired. But we're getting everything we want, huge extension all the way up to the highs. And now we're getting tick divergence into the high. And I didn't even get this 105 versus that 38 over there. I missed that completely, right? So when we get right, and so then what I said is, if we get underneath, and I was off by a few digits, but when we get underneath 28.0175, that occurred right here. It closed 27.98, and it went all the way down to 27.97. Okay, and that's when I came in. So I want to show you where the thinking was, right? Because I don't want this to seem like, oh, it was easy, or that I had it laid up, right? I went. So Bill wrote 12:36. I said your trigger is a point of control closed below 2800. So if we trade 27.96.75, then backside test 27.99. I'm exhausted trying to get this thing to roll and burned up a lot of emotional capital. Most importantly, I don't know what the market's trying to accomplish. The relentless buying at the highs makes zero sense to me, as if risk has magically disappeared. Okay, so you can see I was really just beaten up at that point, right? So I want to put you in my mentality, right? And what I've drilled into myself over time is follow the process. The process pays you, don't go off of it, right? So then when I go, okay, I don't even know what I was typing. I was obviously explaining to you. I said 27.99 is your entry if you can get it, right? 27.99, and I said 27.98 is my entry for the record because I jumped the gun, right? So I shorted 27.98, and I posted that at 12.43. That's right here. Right now, I just want to tell y'all what was going through my mind while I'm here. This is where I posted that. Right here. Okay, I took 98, 99 was the entry, right? It clearly closed underneath, and that's where I entered the trade. It was right, actually one bar in front at 98. Okay, now that was the logic behind the trade, but I almost didn't take it because there's two things going on, right? It's a very fine balance between continuing taking your trade and burying the crap out of yourself on one day, which everyone in the room knows I am highly against. I already took it what was a pretty reasonably profitable day and turned it into a negative day, right? And it was just eating at me in the back of my head whether I want to take one more stop, right? Because I already said earlier I don't want to take another trade, and I traded through New York lunch, which I've been slipping on this week in terms of my discipline, right? And I said everything that I see there tells me we should roll over. And my fear was by the time you recognize it was going to roll over, right? Like that's where you go, oh, we're rolling over, is right over here, right? All the way down here at 1 o'clock when you're already 19, 20 points away from where the epicenter of that turn occurred, right? So the problem wasn't why I took the trade here. I took the trade on process, right? The additional piece of information was the tick divergence that Bill provided, right? And had I continued to be sharp and had done my work, right? So let's take one more look at this up here, right? And go through the pieces. So let's count. So we already know we had a stopped out buyer or stopped out seller. Everyone gets that, right? So let's go through and count all the last pieces. Then I'm going to jump off and start a coaching session early because I want to get out of here today. But let's count the last pieces, right? So when we look on top, we had a 1, 26, 42. Then over here we had a, did we get it on top, Bill? We did not. It went 23, 38, 71, 17. It didn't do it. It did it over here. It did 21, 43, 61. So here's where the box was. Here, I'll show you. Watch this. Okay, so the energy box was over here. It was 57, 21, 1, and 21, 43, 61. That meant this was the top of the energy box, and this was the bottom of the energy box. Do y'all see that there? Because this is where we're probably missing some really big opportunities, right? So remember what I said about the energy box this morning. So I'm going to circle this back around for just a second, right? So I'm going to go all the way back to this morning. And we probably need to designate someone to just keep count of the energy boxes so we don't miss them. But if you look over here this morning at, and I missed the long because it was before 8:30. I didn't miss it. I just simply didn't take it. Right. So if you come back and look at 8:30, right, we had an energy box over here, and I pointed it out in the room, and it was this. It was right in here. 26, 25, 5, 11, 24, 45. So the energy box looked like this. Just count this to this, right? So this is where that came up at 8:36 a.m. As a matter of fact, I still have it recorded if someone needs to see it, right? And what I said was, it's before 8:35, but the quality of that energy box is, if it forms, unless it gets busted, you tend to have huge extensions away from those areas, right? So this becomes important because even though I didn't identify it, the quality was there, and I probably should have attacked it, right? So there's the energy box. There's the close above, right? Backside test. Came back for one more backside test, and then launched. And we obviously, that was worth a lot of. I think it was worth 30 points, right? To the upside. Now, look back the other way where it ended up turning, right? So when you look up here, we went, oh wait, this is 9 o'clock. Let's go back over here. Later in the morning, we're going to come all the way back to the high. There we go. Oh, that's right now. Here we go. So if I wanted to do this again perfectly, I'm going to go, okay. So I'm going to go 21, 43, 61, 57, 21, 1. I don't think I get another energy box over here, which means, okay, so remember how I talk about location? So that means that 61 and this 1 right here, that becomes an energy box, right? Derek, are you still with me? Am I still being clear in terms of the explanation? Anyone? Am I being confusing, or is it clear? Okay, cool. So now here's the energy box, right? Now remember, we're at the high of the day. So what are we looking for strategically, just like with our head and shoulders? Pushes at the low, they get trapped. pushes at the high. So did the trade work? Well, you took it at the high of the day. But if you take it right here, right, closes above, backside test, and it pushes up to 28.10, right? But you get tired mentally of keeping track of all the terms. Well, then you come over here. That's the break. That is the 27.98 is the break of this energy box. I just got lucky in that I saw it in a different way. There's the backside test. That's where I'm telling everyone. There's the 99, right? But I took it at 98, so but technically they were both correct, right? And then what do we know from the energy boxes? When they break, they have a tendency to give a big release. So then I didn't want to cover that trade, right? So I stayed really quiet and just kind of sat in it. And I said, even though I said, I'm not going to scale this because I think it can roll over pretty substantially, right? And that's what got you all the way down into this 27.55. Now, I covered 3/4 of that trade at 27.59 and left the quarter at break even, right? Which I may end up regretting, but whatever. It's a monster day either way, right? Now it is. But when you come back around over here, right? So now let's go do the analysis on the bottom part, right? So we have, let's see if we form an energy box first. So we go, no, 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 no. We get a stopped out buyer. Our original stopped out buyer is over here, right? But our next stopped out buyer, this one of these up, but this guy does get stopped out right here at 14.02. See that? So Randy, are you still in the room, buddy? You still with me? Randy's gonna ask about this. This is an example of where the left one gets replaced with after we've hit the low. Okay, he'll see the video later. So I'm going to move my stopped out buyer from here to here. So I'm going to highlight that. Okay, now what's important about that? Okay, so what's important about this is that we're going to come. So I covered this when we get this stopped out buyer. So I covered early. I got lucky, I guess, in my cover, right? Because I covered here at 59 or 58. This is where I took the trade off. Literally right when I walked back in the room, right? But what we would have wanted is as soon as you closed above here, right? So what do the rules of our trading say? Once you close with this bar, what we're looking for is the backside test of this, or within a point of that, for the push to the outside. Just sometimes we don't get that push, right? Additionally, if we look within here, do we get an energy box of any sort? And I'm going to go with, we do. I'm going to show you where. It wasn't off the low, but it was there. So see this over here now? So you could have still kept this process going. You've now broken your last swing, right? So now pull up all your tools. Broke your swing. Here. This is your 50-60 back. It didn't hit it, right? And then you have an energy box right over here, and it's going to come up like this. 23, 12, 59. Okay, so 23, 12, 59, followed by 41, 44, 70. So it's going to be this to this, right? So there's the close above, there's the backside test of the energy box, and there's the lift, right? So we prefer just to see that at the low. Now, here's the problem with all that stuff, right? We worked pretty damn hard this morning to keep that all up. How do you keep your energy level high enough to keep up with all these moving pieces, right? And especially what affected me the most up top was the slow grind, right? Here's the other thing that affected me. I'm not looking for a bounce down here, so I didn't take the long. I just covered it because my thinking is we would break this and roll to the downside. So what would that look like, right? So if we continue this on right into the close here, I'm going to wrap it up here. We'll just come back and look later what it looks like. I'm going to go left shoulder, right? We've closed back in. They're attempting to close back above. They're attempting to close back above. Left shoulder. This is going to be attempted right shoulder. So now we're looking for a couple of things. Where's my stopped out buyer or stopped out seller? So I get a stopped out seller right on top. See that? Which is good. So, but a little bit of a challenge. I would have preferred that to come down lower here. So now I can, if I think we're going to roll to the downside, it's these two guys within a point. So 82. So 81 against 82, and your stop goes against the high. The only problem here is you're with 40 minutes left in the day, right? You're with 40 minutes left in the day, and you got to make sure that head's going to hold. I'll take a shot at it because I'm up huge now, right? So I'll take it here. Okay, so I added 81 right when it popped there, right? I'm going to stop it at 88.75. All right. And now what I'm going to do with this 88.75 is I'm going to go, okay, do I have an energy box? I don't have an energy box. All I have is a stopped out buyer. I still don't have this left shoulder working, but it's been a little bit sloppy on the left shoulders, right? Shorted 81. Now what do I want to see? I've got to see it get underneath 76 here, so I have a left shoulder, right shoulder, and I can get the compression to the downside and maybe now revisit the push to the downside. The last piece, or the reason why I think it would be a good idea to attempt the short up here, was because this was my break in my swing right here, all right? So if I take my extension tool and I go like this, I need to put a few more on, but this is my 100. My 161 is going to be sitting right about right here. Let me modify this really quick. 161, 261. I'll make the 161 red, orange. Okay. 1, orange. Okay. 261. Really, this is a pain in the butt. Orange. Save. Pink. Looks like they're going to stop that, which is fine. Okay. And okay. So, remember the whole trick with this, right? How many pieces can you put together on what time of day? That's going to stop me. I'm almost positive, right? I'm going to stop it as soon as it closes above here. But the whole point behind that is that that those are all the pieces that we're looking for. And most importantly, wow, look at that. They didn't stop me. Not yet, at least. All those pieces I'm looking for, I'm looking to add on a consistent basis, right? So that I can continue making good trading decisions. And even if this were to stop me, I come back into it. Now I can add the components of, is there an energy box in there that I can take? Like here, now you got a -2, 24, 34. So can we get it underneath? 28, 52, 42, right? So if that 34 prints, and that, so now I can look at it from a different perspective, right? I have all that going there, but now I can just break it down to this. This 42 is printed. If this 34 prints, which I'm pretty sure it will, okay, now I can pretty much bet money whichever side of this we close on, that's the side we're going to roll, and I can expect a big push because now I have an energy box here, right? And we'll have to see how that pans out. They haven't stopped me. I'm basically short. I added to short for that quarter size I had right there. Richard, do you have a question, buddy? And then I'm going to jump off. It was. Readily admit that. And I'd gone negative on the day from positive. I do that sometimes. I'm sorry. I don't do it very often, but I do break my process every once in a while. I'd have been really pissed if it didn't work out. The tick divergence is the only reason I took it. It's really powerful when you get it. And it was the only reason I took it again. I was getting ready to walk out, and Bill pointed it out. And I was like, that's probably what I should have waited for to begin with. But I do break my process on occasion. And you are correct. I went from positive to negative on the day. So I have no problem with you calling me out on that. It was very fair. My wife will probably have that same conversation with me tonight. She'll be like, so, tell me about your day. And let's look about your trading. And she'll go, well, what about this, Simon? It looks like you took more than 2 stops back to back at lunch, and then you took a third. No, tick divergence just on a 5-minute tick chart. Tick, like a trade station, $TICK. We had tick divergence there. Anyways, guys, I got to jump off early. We'll see how this ends up working out or not working out. I'll follow up with it, but I got a feeling whichever side of that energy box we break, we should have a pretty decent move. Of course, you're playing lottery at the end of the day with the way this thing's been running up and down. So whatever happens here, I ended up with a home run day, but only by the grace of God and Bill. So. The stop's right above there, so yeah, I'm done. I've got a coaching session right behind that I'm running late for, so I'm going to go do that. So unless anyone else has any other questions, I don't have very much on anymore, Richard. I have quarter size, just over quarter size. I just added a few contracts. Hey, you're very welcome, Richard. I hope everyone has a great weekend. Happy Easter and happy Passover. Whatever else you celebrate, stay healthy, guys. We'll be back next week and we'll have more fun. This week kind of blew, actually, but next week will be more fun. Even though we had some spectacular trades now that I think about it, it's still kind of blue. So, anyways, talk to everyone later. Have a great night, guys.